Hello, this is Gerald Johan van Waas and the Educational Channel. In support of the book and the theory of sound in form, also with the development of the theory in the development of the word as a first part, which shows you how the theory has been developed by following different angles and see where it gets us. But at the end, you will have the theory and the foundation that you need to realize and understand what it is about. It is about a system with which you can learn to recognize the letter combinations, how they truly show you the directions in words, how they are intended. They follow certain almost natural rules, and our mind follows these rules as well. They are connected with different specific orientations in time or space, also related with a specific let's say organ of understanding to distinguish between the different letters in a way how we distinguish, let's say, numbers as well, in a certain order of distinction. This order of distinction in that way is a natural order, and that's why how it also fits with reality if we discover how these are built up as a system. And I can learn you this system by this by guidance of this video channel also. And in this case, I will continue where I left off by comparing the letter combinations as a specific orientation, time and space within the system of dimensions, let's say in the 3+1 dimensions. It is most understandable. And I had already a few examples from the first part of the scheme, which were the spatial references, and with some movements and changes. The more difficult letters are at the end of the system, like with the letter S, for instance, or the R. So I will take some of them and check if they really are that difficult as they seem to be. Let's analyze the words of sand, strand, and strands, and beach, because a strand is also a Dutch word which means beach, so I will also take the English word as a comparison. Let's start with sand. What kind of letters do we have in sand? We have, of course, the S. We make it as simple as possible. This is the S. In a way, there is more complexity behind it. It is also a reference point which follows the two directions in time and space to have an interaction and adaptation. That's the most difficult idea behind it. You can analyze it, you can make it simple if you want as well, but we also prefer always the most simple forms. At least that's the best intention to do. That's what I do here. The A, can take just simply a point or a point on a horizontal line. The N is a volume that fits into something, into some form, as a formation somewhere. The T, underneath you can see the right direction, the vertical, somewhere 2/3 in the middle, that it is about distinction. And the top design that I have there is that you always have to remind it is about distinction. If you compare it with your sensitivity to recognize differences in facial recognition, in recognition of forms, it is the point of distinction that says, okay, I distinctive here two different things, not just one but two. And this distinction points you in the direction of one point where the distinction between 2 points lies. Sometimes I explain it in a more complex way, but sometimes it is needed to add these complexities as well, that you understand the things correctly. Don't use the puzzles too easily. That's why you have to use the distinctions, not the puzzle parts. That's why, for instance, if you would adapt the underlying T form to, let's say, the distinction in a circle, it will immediately goes towards where you can distinguish this as a circle. So we have to adapt. That's why, for instance, the combination of N and T, the T has to go to where is exactly the point that we make a distinction, that we have an N there within a form, and then you create the form N plus T. And you can recognize already a word there, the dent, or the from the tooth is there recognizable. If you do it right, if you understand where the connection goes to, you will understand all the letters and know how to combine them. So let's take STRAND. These are the letters that we will go to use, and we simply use them as a puzzle this time. So let's go to put them together in the right order, and I have the puzzle, the very simple puzzle of STRAND. And if I adapt it a little bit, that I adapt to what I have, to the content that I have the form underneath. It's a slightly corrected puzzle. Okay, it is, you can say it is a bit a coincidence that it fits with STRAND. Maybe it does, but we will use it. It was a very simple thing to do. Let's use it, and let's compare it with an icon that we look up, or a symbol that we look up, that will express STRAND. Let's do that. Here we have the STRAND icon that I have. What is, so the icons or the symbols that we use, mostly they try to have as little as elements together and still express everything. So of course the STRAND is not just that mountain of sand, but you also have to experience it, that is STRAND has a certain structure. That's why it's expressed like this. The structure is a bit loose. It is so that's why it's expressed very well, even with a guiding extra element. Otherwise it would be just like mountains. No, now we know it is about sand. We associate it correctly. And now let's just, if you compare it with this very simple expression that I had here, we can have the sand mountain, and we also have a point where we can sense the what is it within it. We can recognize it. It's a bit coincidental. It is understandable. It's recognizable. Of course, it's no proof, and it is very circumstantial. Let's say that it fits. Doesn't matter. We continue. Let's just take it a little bit more to a complex part. We had the expression as simple as possible. Let's make it as we deal with the more underlying expressions, like for instance the S means something extra. This S always is also involved in an adaptation process. It's at the end of the cycle. It deals with a lot more than just the spatial references, just the time references. It also deals with an adaptation in time and space. So we have to have this element as well if we want to understand the full picture. And that full picture is not there. So let's add it. So if I make the same thing with a starting point and an end point, okay, I have a slightly different image that I have here. So what do I sense here? I can sense it, and I can imagine an association here that fits my expectations very well. I have the mountain of sand, and I also have this. What comes out is a grain of sand. If I wish, you have this balance, which fits with the reality. A bit of it coincidental, But if you understand the background of the theory and you know that S is the whole range of in time and space that has some differences and some adaptations, and it could even express the full range, like the full range of the sand mountain, up until the grain of sand and the whole structure in between. That's more what the sand is. The sand is not just a mountain, it's not just a grain of sand, it's a whole picture in between. Yes, it's describing it already better, but it's still circumstantial, it's a bit coincidental, it's almost artistic, but it is still not a proof. No, it isn't. So let's have some variation, because sand is not just with an A, it's actually expressed with A. So if I stretch it into the A and connect it again, I still have this movable structure, and I still recognize a sand. Yes, it is nice as an artistic expression. It still fits accidentally with sand, but it's an artistic expression. It's quite nice that it fits, but how can you use this as a proof? Agreed. So let's go to the theory. So let's go to the theory and use the whole structure underneath. I have here it's a simplification of what is underlying there. All the letters are expressed there in 1, 2, 3 dimensions, then the fourth dimension in the second one, and the interactions in the last, the extra and adaptations with its responses in the last part, in the most complex letters as expressions. You can even express them in 9 dimensions theoretically, but in fact we know a reality of 3 plus 1. Let's just always use 3 plus 1. It's much more easy. So we have a spatial reference of letters. We have movement or change, which when you need change. For instance, if you have a spatial reference, you have a point in a space which isn't immediately finalized in its expressions. It needs some time to develop, and it also needs a description in time to develop. We need letters of that second degree. If this is not always finding itself in time just simply because we say so that it has to become that way, but we also need conditions that needs to be fulfilled with responses. So we need to act to it, we have to make a response, and if we find the right response and act accordingly, we finally have a result. That's the last category. In dimensions, you need a time frame in both directions, you need a spatial frame in both directions. Too complicated if we would imagine this in all the dimensions that are, if you make them all interconnected. Anyway, you can still express them with 3 dimensions plus 1, and that's what I always will do, mostly will do in these videos. So what kind of letters do we have then in this system? We found the N and D in the middle, we have the A, and we have an S at the last part. So what is dominating from the 3 regions of expression of complexity? It's especially the middle part which is dominating, which is the part that refers to changeable conditions. So what will be dominating for sand, we already know, it's the changeable conditions. And this will be influenced on both sides by a spatial reference, yes, and by a adapting need or move that we need to do. What is the spatial reference? It's the central point of orientation. So we know it's just a thing as it is on the point in space. There it is. It's a reference point in space, just like that, without anything more to add. And on the other side, it's the adaptation. And the S is at the end of the cycle. It's the spontaneous adaptation to make it change, that will make the change at the end. So that's already something we can recognize in STRAND. So, in other words, what do we recognize here? This description we can analyze and we can read easily, because we have as first letter the S. So, the starting point is a feedback system. It's also with an automated adaptation to its results. This is the description of the S. Nothing more. It's technical and you can understand it. And this feedback system will start from the central point of orientation, the A. That's the next letter. While, of course, working with or by producing the change, because these are the two last letters, and this change will happen in the horizontal and vertical direction, or in two directions, as you can see. Okay, let's now compare it to the icon that we had. We have here the icon. Okay, let's add the letters. The A as a centered foundation, our work plane, let's say. We also have two movable directions. It's as you can see here, you can express it in two dimensions, and you have already two movable directions to express the mountain and how the sand moves as a form. It will fit. It doesn't fit in all directions. Just these two are enough to know what we have here. And the end effect will be that we have, that's the S at the outer edges. The end effect will be that we can sense this. We can sense that it's movable in two directions. We can sense that immediately in every part. Yes, it will fit. It does fit. Is it a proof? I think from here on it is already in the direction of that this theory works. Because you have here this stable foundation, the A, which is a sand lying on the ground, let's say, with two unstable directions, the N and the D, and this can be sensed as an effect via the S. This is sand. This is how we experience sand. That's why there's a mountain of sand there, but also an object with which you can sense how this structure or material is like. Let's go to the next letter, the next word, strand. There's some extra letter there indeed. The strand is again same space, but we connect to this space via R by a connecting point. So it's connecting point, so we come from elsewhere and we try to connect it as you can see. So we have the S, the A, the T, the R, or the Ra here as well if you want, and we still have to add the N, or content. We have to add more content. When we add more content and focus on it, that is the distinction where we are heading to as the last letter T. We have almost the result of this, but it's expressed with the D. So the D is not just, okay, we have a distinction here, that's it. No, the D is an expression which says, no, we need time before it happens. Time before we have our final moment. Time before it has developed to that direction. Time before we have the place of pointing out of that conclusion. That is what is expressed in strand. Strand is the Dutch word for beach, by the way. So the R will be the connection point, with N the coming in or filling in or fitting to a place, let's say, which evolves also to its proper distinction at the end. Now we shall immediately, or to its position, evolving to its final position. So how shall we let's compare it now with the icons that we can find on the internet. So if you look at for icons of the word strand or beach, we will have these two distinctive, well done icons. And these pictograms, they emphasize the beach as a place near the sea, and they also always have this extra object, mostly the parasol. Sometimes it's the palm tree. Anywhere it gives us the extra association that we not just have the place, but it's always also a place to land there, to strand there. That's also the English word, to strand there. So you also have to make the connection to it, to the place. And that's why these extra objects again help you to pinpoint in the right direction. Also, these icons know what they're doing. It's always a bit unconsciously. We don't know, most people really don't know what they're doing, but they're doing the correct thing. Just like with choosing letters, words. Rationally, we're not very developed people, but unconsciously, we are much more developed as that. If we continue to follow what we sense how it is, it's very difficult to understand this sensing. That's why maybe these videos are difficult as well, because I understand the sensing rationally and also backed by a theory. I had to look a lot before I had the theory, but that's helpful. You can make every sensitivity and sensibility that how you sense how the things are sensed right. There's also a way how to realize this rationally. It's a bit it doesn't go easily. Why? Because if you just would use your rationality and you don't have the backing, you would go into a wrong direction. So first learn the backing before you can even start doing that. It is sorry to do that it's the way, but that's just the way it is. Let's go to the next word instead of strand. Strands. So the strands, we have here the word strand, and we have to adapt to it with the S, an extra S which comes in. So the extra S which comes in, just like another content even there in it. And if we fill this content in with what we have or what we need, we have the connecting points, as you can see here, and of course the content, the noticeable content, has to be added as well. And if we compare that to the icons that we can find on the internet, yes, of course, we recognize the strands. Last comparison, the word strand was beach, so I promised you also the English version. Now let's go to the beach. Let's go to the beach. And it is actually very easy to express, as you can see. This was immediately expressed without much thinking, because here you can see it already. The B is there, this expression which you always have in the same way. The E as the whole expressed with E and A, but also you hear it as E, so it's an insertion by a whole range of an areas. It's different sections. You can have all these kind of things, or a wider section that is expressed in that. The C will be the selective part in that area that we developed already in several sections. And the S at the end, it will have the effect in there of all the variations of the selectiveness. Yeah, you have the beach. It's like the beach line, or the coastline. Now let's back this up with a theory. Okay, strand. Which letters do I need? I have them here in the system, in the spatial reference, 2, in the movement or change, 2, and in the adaptation process or the responses in the conditions, so how to change, just 1 letter. So what will be immediately recognizable or visible? There is clearly a place orientation, because I have 2 letters in place. At the same time, and with the same amount, there's also a move or a change there. So it also gives you a reference that this space is adaptive to change. So where you can pinpoint this, it is adaptable to change, and this change, because of the last letter, this R as well, will be there will be a move via interactions. So in that way, this background in the theory, just pinpointing out the right letters in the right order and in the right level of complexity, you can already understand it very quickly. It's the same way we do that unconsciously. Again, it's like we know immediately by STRAND that it is, we also in our mind know that this is a place, but it's adaptive to change. Where the beach, like the beach, where the beach is, where will we go to, how the stand looks like, and so on and so on and so on. It is there's a changeable condition. The strand is not a fixed place. It's adaptive, and we adapt to it, and nature adapts it. It's changeable. That's an element. However, you associate it, because this is already using your logic, using your imagination, or if you wish, even your imagination, but it's the way how this fits with the coordinates. The coordinates are real, the imagination are expressions from the coordinates, and they fit, and if they fit, it's not fantasy, and it's just like, okay, then it becomes a way of expression and of expressing what there is. Let's go now to the beach. Let's go to the beach. The beach has other letters here. 3 of them are in the spatial reference. Just 1 is in the movable space, and just 1 is in the adaptation reference. So what will be visible? What is visible with the beach is that it is clearly the dominant factor is a spatial reference point. That is for sure. There's only one thing, one element which is changeable. And what is it? Just imagine the beach. There's only one direction which is changeable, which is a reference point to its direction of width. So if you look at the beach, there's indeed only one direction which is changeable, which is the width of the beach. Nice. And this, in the conclusion of the H, will affect, or there will be, thanks to this, there will be an interaction of its full dynamic space. And that's the H, how we live there, how we connect there, what is alive there, what is further connected with it. It is because of this interconnection that this will be changeable, and there will be an interaction because of this, and adapting to this, and so on, and so on, and so on, and so on. But just go to the beach, because this video was ended. Thanks again for watching. This was Gerald Johan van Waas. There's a website too, and there's a YouTube channel too, and you can subscribe too if you like, and you will get more instructions, more demonstrations, more examples that have a foundation in theory in the books that I just mentioned. Anyhow, thanks for watching. Bye bye.